So yes, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chris Reed. I'm the founder of ProxiSmart Limited. That's me in the corner. No, not the one in the red dress, the other one. We've got a couple of flagship solutions called Parking Perks and Travel Perks, which I'm going to talk about. We're all about three key objectives. We want to uplift the local economy, particularly in a post-COVID world. So we're talking about towns and city centres struggling to get their local economy back on track. And all about delivering an environmentally sustainable future, as well as supporting active travel. I'm going to talk about the solutions in a second. You may have noticed, the eagle-eyed amongst you, that we are a dragon-backed business. I went on the program a couple of years ago and managed to get a dragon to back us. She's still very much heavily involved. If you want to see probably the sweatiest man that's ever been on Dragon's Den, then you can find that on YouTube somewhere, although I wouldn't recommend it. Let's move on. Okay. So we've created something we kind of class as a fairly disruptive model for the parking, public transport, and active travel sectors. We've created basically a loyalty solution which rewards consumer spending in the high street, in the local town and city centres, with a credit, perks we call it, that you can use to then pay for your public transport or your parking or your active travel like e-bike hire, e-vehicle recharging, etc. And it's a disruptive model because it changes who pays for those elements from the consumer to merchants. And it does that in exchange for uplifting the spend in those merchant offline stores particularly. So merchants create basically rewards and offers based upon a minimum spend. Consumers, when they make a purchase of goods or services, they will earn perks, the reward element of that offer. And that's credited to their accounts, and they can then use that perks to pay for, like I say, either parking, or in the case of parking perks, or public transport and active travel elements in the case of travel perks. Very importantly, any unspent perks can be retained and used on their next visit. So it's all about promoting repeat customer and location loyalty. So I want to sort of explain how it works for consumers next. So it's a free to download app. Consumers will download and register their account. As part of that registration, they will register their personal debit and credit cards. I'll explain why in a second. And they will also be allocated or pick up from a collection point at the moment, it's a physical payment card, a Perks payment card. I hope you can see my equivalent there on screen with my video. So it's a MasterCard approved debit card, and that is then activated and linked to their user account. They then go shopping, and the app will tell them which businesses in the location are participating in the scheme, where they can earn perks, and they pay for their goods or services as normal with their registered debit or credit cards. So there's no change of behavior at the till, either for the consumer or, importantly, for the merchant staff. They just take payment as normal at the till, and our system picks up that transaction in the background through the MasterCard Visa platform. We validate the spend and basically ascertain whether or not it's good enough to earn any perks. And we notify the consumer in real time of the perks they've earned. And that's immediately added to their account and is immediately available on their Parking Perks payment card for them to use to pay for parking, like I say, in the case of Parking Perks, or indeed public transport or other options like e-bike hire, etc. And that element, that sort of cyclical nature of their town centre visit is kind of bookended by them paying for their transport. So it's a very, very powerful sort of loyalty system. It's all about supporting the local economy, supporting the high street, but the reward is kind of unique. It's rewarding people with either free parking or free public transport. So how do we align that to the green agenda? Well, in the case of parking perks, we can restrict the redemption of perks to specific car parks. I'm sorry, in the top right, by the way, specific car parks. So that could be either edge of town or out of town parking to encourage and incentivize park and ride type schemes, or park and stride type schemes, which I see a term bandied around these days. The reduction of the cost of public transport is an incentivization in itself. And very importantly, if we move to the left there, what we're actually doing with Parking Perks in particular is we are collecting incredibly powerful data. We're basically mapping the consumer's journey from where they live to where they park, to which merchants they're engaging with, to how much they're spending and on what. So we're working out who's coming into the town centre, when they're coming in, but most importantly, why they're coming in. It's much more granular than, say, footfall cameras, which just tell you movement. Ours, we're actually tracking spending. So we know why people are spending, and it's not just limited to retail, it's across any type of town centre businesses. And indeed, in our live locations, we do have even professional services like lawyers and accountants giving away perks as part of people attending appointments. So it can be for the hospitality sector, for health and beauty, for retail, anything and everything that a town centre provides. So very importantly, like I said, that data tells us why people are coming into the town centre, and aggregated and anonymized, that gives us real smart city style insight and analysis on why that town centre is being used, when, where, and by whom. Other elements to the solution, we're expanding our sort of operator range to include things like e-bike and e-carriage hire options, and as well as e-charging. So with electric vehicles, it's not just about parking your car, it's about parking and charging. And we've already seen some schemes around the country where that's going to be rolled into one payment, if you like. So you park up, you charge your car, and you pay for parking at the same time. So all of those elements we could be paying for by perks. And that perks, remember, is linked to direct spending in that local economy. So we're uplifting the local economy, but incentivizing greener travel choices. Hope that all makes sense. Now, in terms of traction, we're live in a couple of places where we're still early doors. COVID had a bit of an impact on our rollout plans because obviously this is all linked to the high street, and the high street was closed for 16 months basically. So we were a little bit behind to where we anticipated to be, but we're now live in a couple of locations. Went live in Kendal last week, for instance. And that's with parking perks. With travel perks, we are now part of the successful High Trans project as part of the Mass Scotland project there. So travel perks will be rolled out across the Highlands and Islands of Scotland, where I am right now. So we're meeting with a few stakeholders this evening. So the idea is that we're incentivizing greater use of public transport by reducing the cost, but linking that to the spend in the town centres, and our initial targets are places like Inverness, Elgin, and Nairn, etc. So a great project to be involved in, hopefully going live later this year, early new year. So other thing to mention, we have now over sort of 80 national brands where you can earn your perks. So that gives us an anchor point in any real sort of high street or town centre location across the country. And then what we typically do is we work in partnership with the local business improvement district to try and onboard as many local independent merchants. So we're spreading the benefit of the solution into that sort of mix of merchants, both national and independent. And you'll hopefully notice there on the right, we're also now in partnership with Ringo. Ringo is the UK's largest cashless parking provider. They have a real estate of around about 150 local authorities who use their software. That covers around 470 odd towns and cities, and they've got 18 million users. So our plans and hopes are early next year we start to roll out a bit more nationally, and perks becomes a bit of a high street thing across the whole country with the opportunity to hopefully take it further. But it's all about that objective of learning about private car users and then incentivizing them to switch at least some of their private car journeys onto public transport or other travel active type schemes. So that's a brief one from me. I hope that's given you a little bit of a flavour for what it's all about. My email's at the bottom there, chris.reed@proxismart.co.uk. More than happy to take any queries or questions if that's a part of the schedule, Dan, but it's back over to you. Shall I stop sharing?